from the oldest city in the USA, St. Augustine tonight, with our guest from the Menorcan Cultural Society, Carol Lopez, surrealist painter Susanne Schuenke, and musical guest Gilt. With your host, Jorge Rivera. Oh yeah! Oh yeah, another show. Oh man, the weather broke in. It's beautiful outside. The evening. Oh, I might fall in love tonight. It's a beautiful, beautiful day and a beautiful evening. And I thank you for being here in the St. Augustine Tonight Show. Now, I want to thank Garrett Brothers once again. Look at this set here. This is unbelievable. He always amazes me. When I come in the door, I look and I go, wow, you know. And he pretends like, this is normal. So we work it out. We also want to thank Ancient City Brewery. Brought us an assortment of beer from another world. It's just wonderful stuff. Thank you, Ancient City Brewery. You are the best. They were unbelievable. They were so generous. And I thought they were just going to give me one beer, but they gave me the golden ale, the red ale, and the IPA, whatever they call that. It's very hoppy. I tend not to like that. I like more their golden ale, all these IPA beers. I don't know. I guess I'm old school. And I also want to thank St. Augie's Pizzeria. They brought these incredible pizzas. They brought these wonderful rolls, garlic rolls. They brought food. I might get sued because people gain weight for coming to this show. But hey, I'm okay with that. And so, yes, this is all made possible by you, by supporting the show and all these, restaurants, breweries, everyone who's just been so generous to us because we do not have a great budget. Yes. The other thing, I miss the old days. I was at a store the other day. It was a little mom and pop shop, and it reminded me of the old days. They gave me a little receipt, and that was fine. But then Bill Gates said he was going to build a paperless society. So I went to a CVS store, and this is what I get. So much for the trees in the Amazon. So much. The word con after paperless society really makes me laugh. I've never seen. This is one item, ladies and gentlemen. This is one item. This is not that I bought the groceries. This is one item. So, yeah, I don't know about that paperless society. I'm still waiting for it, and they got my money. The other thing I saw in the news was Norway. Norway just came out with their report on how many cars they sold. And of all the cars they sold last year, 59% were total electric vehicles. This is like... And if you include the hybrids, it's 69 or 68% of their vehicles. So the Norwegians, though they sell oil and gas, they know what the future is and is going to be like, and that the way to help this planet is to be aggressive on these campaigns. So Norway, God, these Scandinavian countries always leave me breathless. And then my series, I'm watching my reality show that I love, Brexit. Once again, denied again, defeated. The Prime Minister left with her head down, and no one really knows. They're running out of time. And so I don't know what the bookies have. I haven't looked at that. In England you can bet on anything. So I don't know what the bookies are, but I think the bookies they're coming out with nothing. And we'll see how that, maybe they'll be fine at the end of the day after a couple of apocalyptic years in which they have to shift everything. But I don't think England will be the same. But I think they'll be fine at the end. The other thing I read in the news, Singapore Airport, once again, #1 in the world for the 7th year in a row. Out of the 10 top airports in the world, none of them were in America. The richest country in the world. I keep telling this every day. Our airports are just, someone told me LaGuardia was the best airport, and I asked them why. And I asked him why, and he said, because I got out alive and with my mind. So maybe, yes, maybe LaGuardia is the best airport. But it's quite sad that we keep falling back and back in so many regions of education, technology. It looks like other countries are stepping up. Quite sad. The other thing is, I've been trying to understand quantum computers, and it's so difficult because if you, in a nutshell, a quantum computer, our computers are 1 and zeros. 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. A quantum computer is anything between a 1 and a 0. So your 1 could be 20% 0, 80% 1. It could be 1% 1, 99% 0. That spectrum is hard to understand. The other thing is that a quantum computer needs to be kept at a very cool temperature, 460 degrees minus 0, because it thinks. The quantum computers, they already have one, that's 20 quantum bits, but Google and IBM hope to have in about 2 to 3 years a 50 quantum bit computer. What does it do? Let's say it this way. There are problems that scientists know will take us hundreds of thousands of years to solve. A quantum computer can do it in 20 seconds. This is what we're talking about. And I saw some scientists write these equations. There was one that was supposed to take 28 billion years to solve, and a quantum computer, the way they see it, could do it in 100 seconds. And is that, like a friend of mine says, it's like building God's brain. And so everyone is pushing for this new computer, and of course the Chinese are ahead of everybody else. So we'll see. We don't have any quantum experts here tonight, but we do have 3 wonderful guests. We have Carol Lopez-Bradshaw from the Menorcan Cultural Society. We have Susanne Schuenke, American-German surrealist painter, and we have the Gilt that are going to play for us right now. So you get a little flavor of what's coming. This is like being in the East Village in New York. I love it.
My name's Theo Garrett. I'm the owner of Garrett Brothers. My rule of thumb is I don't take anything in this store that I wouldn't have in my own home. We look for unique pieces, things you can't find anywhere around St. Augustine, and we pride ourselves on that. We have more than furniture. We have 1967 Vespa. We have anything that you can think of that would be fun and exciting. You're going to find it here. Sculptures, art pieces. We have a wonderful selection of art. I hear it's like a museum. That's the most common comment that I hear. Love for you to come and see me here, and we'll make you happy.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with Carol Lopez-Bradshaw. So nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
You know, it's wonderful to have you on the show because I see you as one of the historian keepers, you know, one that keeps us aware of what our history is in this city. And so it's wonderful to have you here. Now, so you're from here.
Right.
And your dad was from here. And your granddad was from here.
Go back about 15 generations.
Wow.
They came in from Menorca.
Oh, wow. And so now, I guess you've seen the city change quite a bit.
Oh, yes.
You know, and so I guess you had told me that your house was the first house on Saragossa?
Saragossa was the
Wow.
first house built there. They were granted an easement, a 30-foot easement to come in, and built the first house, and that's where I live.
Wow, and that house is still there. You're in that house.
Oh, yeah, we slant a little bit, but we're okay.
Now, about how many Menorcans came here to this area?
Well, there were about 1,400 that came first and went on down to New Smyrna, but there were only 600 left that survived that walked here to St. Augustine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And out of those 600 that came and stayed here, there's close to 30,000 descendants here in St. Johns County alone.
Wow, wow. You know, because when you go to museums and people talk about the history of Menorcan, their coming here was very hard. It wasn't something easy. They came from very difficult times, and coming to St. Augustine bettered their lives. So, is that accurate?
Well, when they came over, they were going to, they were indentured servants, and they were going to build this plantation for a Dr. Turnbull in New Smyrna, which is about 75 miles south of here, but they didn't work out that way, and after the 7 years were up, they still had to suffer. Many of them died, many of them were, other things happened to them, and then they finally made the walk here to St. Augustine and was granted asylum, but only 600 left that survived.
Wow. People don't realize that in that time, Florida there were a lot of mosquitoes, there was a lot of mosquito diseases and things like that.
Well, when they came up, they had to walk through the woods to come up here now. Part of the Old Kings Road is there, and some of it varies at whatever part of the counties you're in. And down in New Smyrna area, it was probably in what we would know as A1A now. coming back up here, but then they had water to go across. They came in groups. They didn't come all at one time.
Right.
And they had the men would circle around the women and the children and the older people. And you had Indians
Right.
all over the place, as well as nice little animals. So they
Right.
had a nice walk up here. So when they got here, they decided to stay.
Wow, wow. Now, when we were talking before, you have done so many different things in your life here in St. Johns County, but I thought the one I loved more was about the puppets. The puppets.
Well,
What's that about?
I went to work for the county fire service. I was a fire inspector in a, I worked, I can't even think what it was that I did. But anyway, I went out and did fire prevention programs. So I went into the schools and was talking, and here's all these 300 little kids just looking at you. So I went back and told the fire chief, I said, you know, this is dull. Let's do a puppet show. So the Children's Television Network sent me a cassette tape, which you wouldn't use now, with all of the characters from Sesame Street. So it was on fire prevention. So we put a puppet show together. The volunteer firemen built me this puppet stage that weighed a ton. And it wasn't that big on television, so no one knew what Elmo looked like.
Oh, okay.
We did know he was pink. And when the first one we made looked like a frying pan with a carrot sticking out of it. But as soon as we started the music, the children would respond, and they didn't seem to matter that he had a carrot. Then we got a little bit better. Then finally we found one in a stuffed animal in one of the stores, so we went and slit his back and took his inside out, and he became a puppet. So we teamed up with the Division of Forestry.
Okay.
So we had to have Smokey the Bear, and so we just put it all together. Then as we grew, we became a little more into it, and finally we had recorded everything.
Right.
So it only took 3 of us to do it. And then we traveled to every school in the county, which is triple now, but we'd start in September and go through till November.
Wow.
So I see people come up and they say, I remember you, and I don't remember you. And they say, oh yeah, you did puppets. I say, oh yeah. So that's
Sweet.
one of my many careers was a puppet show.
So when was it that you thought, you know, we should start a Menorcan Cultural Society?
The Menorcan Society was founded around the early 1980s, and it was founded by Kenny Beeson, who has passed away. But Kenny taught Florida history at our local community college in the early days. And one of the Clarissa Anderson Gibbs, who was through the Flagler era, is the one that went to him and said, we need to form this. So she donated money, and they started it, and then it's grown. And then of course Kenny left us, and then I kind of inherited it for about 25 years. And so now I found someone younger than me that I kind of, real quick talking, put him into it.
All right.
So
now, why did you feel you needed a Menorcan Cultural Society?
it was formed to preserve the history and the culture of our people. That has been a very big struggle. The Menorcans are not recognized here for what they did to keep because when they came during the English period.
Oh, okay.
So when the Spanish came back, the island of Menorca was under the English, so that's all they knew. But the Spanish enticed them to stay by giving them land grants. So that moved them out into our county, and they stayed. When they first came, they were given kind of the lowest part of the city. Of course, you choke on that now because it was right south of the city gates, where they know it as the Spanish quarters, but we know it as the Menorcan quarters.
Okay.
Kenny told me one time when I took over, he says, you're going to work hard and you're going to fight, but they're never going to recognize you. And that's true. Unless they want something. The city needs something done, and it's 100 Carol. And then we pull it off.
Okay.
But that's why you won't find too much in our city that depicts our history. You have the statue of Father Camps and his people
Right.
in the courtyard of the cathedral.
Yes.
A sign on St. George Street, kind of a small little sign. And then if you go to the information center, they're going to have you call me.
Ah, that's
So, and then I
interesting.
kind of designate it out to everybody I can find.
So do you still give tours?
I don't now.
Okay.
No,
But
I
did
used
you at
to.
some time?
Oh yeah, I helped them on the ghost tours
Ah.
when they were very first founded, and that was pretty interesting. You know, we only did a few things, but then I'd have to walk home late at night, so
All right. Yeah.
I wouldn't get too big on it.
Yeah. It's that's very popular. The ghost tours.
It's grown immensely since
Mm-hmm.
I did it.
Yeah, someone was telling me about a paranormal thing on Cedar Street. They were rented a house and things were happening there. So I guess St. Augustine is considered to be a very haunted city in the sense of ghosts and things like
Well,
that.
the way it was explained to me, because I had happenings in my house, and
Explain a happening.
a plain happening. Well, let's see, which one would I tell you that you would want to hear? There was one that I was. This house that I'm in, of course, was built in 1876, so they didn't have a whole, like indoor plumbing. So when they converted it over, where they picked to put the bathroom was in the very front of the house, which was, I grew up in this house and we didn't like that. But one day when I got out of the shower, it had all smoked up, and on the mirror, coming through the smoke on it, said peace, P-E-A-C-E, out. Well, I got the idea was they could stay. I don't want to hear them, I don't want to see them, and I want to talk to them. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to float around, little spirits, you can do that, but don't bother me. That upset me. So I got real mad, and I wiped the mirror off, and I phoned it up again, and it came out bigger. The words like they were mad. So my son lived in back of me, one of them, and I was over to his house. I said, hey, I'm staying in your house tonight. Mm-hmm. He says, oh, he doesn't believe this. So we tried it, and it kept coming back. But if you write on a mirror with your finger through the fog and that, you're going to leave a oil that comes out of your finger. There was no oil on it. We cleaned it with Windex. So this went on. So I called a certain person who did ghost tours, and they were going to get in touch with this parapsychology people over in University of Florida. And when I came home, I said, I got 3 days to wait on you guys. This is not funny. So finally, when they finally came, when I came home that day, when I walked in the house, I knew whatever was there was gone.
Wow.
I could just feel it.
Wow.
So they're all in there talking about it, and I noticed them. I said, I know who all y'all are. Y'all run those ghost tours, and if my name gets on that list, it's not going to be a pretty sight.
Oh.
So that was my one, and it came back for a while. Now I only have an A on it.
Okay.
And I think that's either an angel. I'll go with the angel on
All
that.
right.
It comes through.
Are there still things that you cook and eat that are from the Menorcan tradition?
The most common one that's used, there are many here in St. Augustine, but the most common is Perlo.
Perlo.
Now it's spelled P-I-L-A-U, but it's pronounced Perlo. It's a rice-based dish and probably came out of a Spanish dish.
Like the paella or
something like that, but it was something that these people didn't have a lot. They had to go with what they had. So I'm assuming that that's what they did, and they make it out of everything. You can have some things I'm not going to say, but you can make it out of shrimp, and you can make it out of chicken and stuff like that. And the other one is the frumangiata, which is it's a cheese pastry.
Okay.
That came over with our people as far as we know. On the island today, they have frumangiatas, but they're like we would call an empanada or something. It has meat in it.
Right.
This was cheese, and you take now. Through the years, I found out how to cheat on it. But you can make the pastry, the crust, and Pillsbury does that real easy, and no floury mess. So you cut your circles, and you make your ingredients with cheese and a little bit of flour and a little bit of sugar in that. you grade your cheese up, and then you put a little bit in the middle, you bend it over, make a half circle, and you pinch it like you do a pie. You baste it with butter. Trust me, if you don't do that, it's nasty. And then you cut a cross in the middle. And it was only made on Holy Saturday, because it's the cake of the resurrection. So when it bakes, the cheese rises through the cross. So then on they had them for eating. Now there are quite a few families that still do that. In the early days, the men, of course, the men get to do everything, went through the city singing this Frumenjata serenade, which is really a religious song translated, and they would go to your house and they would sing this verse, and they would open the shutters and give them some Frumenjatas, and they would sing a verse that would say how sweet and nice this family is. But if they got to a house that they didn't give them any, there's another verse they used that said how stingy these people are. Now, nobody ever told us what happened when they went home. Did they share these Frumenjatas with the women who baked them? We don't know, but there are still some families here. And you can get them when we have our big heritage celebration.
So this was the other thing, because we're running out of time, is you have this wonderful Menorcan kind of festival once a year.
And the first Saturday of March, we have what is called the Menorcan Heritage Celebration. And it's like a big reunion. And they come, we have sometimes over 1,000 to 1,500 people, and they travel throughout the states to come. And we have the Perlo of all kind. We learned a good way to do that. Some other time I'll tell you. And then we have pastries and things, and then we have entertainment, and they share their things. But it's
lovely.
It's held at the Lombius House, which is the only Menorcan house that remains that's open to the public. There are many, but they're privately owned.
I've covered that with First Coast, and it's beautiful. It's lovely, and I thank you so much
for
being
for
here on the show
me.
and educating us and making us hungry at the same time and scaring us at the same time. So thank you so much. Let's give
You're
her a
welcome.
hand. Carol Lopez-Bradshaw from the Menorcan Cultural Society. We'll be back after these messages.
We opened up last year in January. Everything from the German farmer bread, the Schwarzwälder Flosserbrot. We have Jewish roots as well on my mother's side. So we do challah every Friday. That's available.
At Martinez & Associates, we can help you with many things. Number one is income for life throughout your retirement, which is very important. Number two would be Medicare choices, which are very confusing. Number three is a legacy for your loved ones. And finally, keeping you independent throughout retirement. My name is Tuli Martinez. Call this number. Y hablamos español.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with Susanne Schuenke, a painter. You could see behind me two of her pieces of art. I think what I love most of Susanne's work, the themes are wonderful, but the colors are, I don't know, they're very therapeutic for me when I look at them. They ease me. So I thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you.
For those who don't know, on Sunday, Susanne Schuenke won the Rowita Award. That is recognizing outstanding women in the arts. And that is a nice award here in St. Augustine, something very special. and she was honored with several other women in the arts. You don't have to be an artist. You could be someone who backs art, teaches art, etc., whether it's like this or performing or music or anything. And so that was a wonderful ceremony and a wonderful honor. So, wow. So where were you born, Susanne?
In Düsseldorf, Germany.
Düsseldorf.
West Germany.
I know Düsseldorf for the good beer. Yes, wonderful little place. I spent a lot of time in Germany. I love the country. And so you went to school. Your parents were artists, were they not?
Correct, yes.
What kind of art did they do?
Well, they studied graphic art and painting, but they earned their money in graphic arts, but never left painting totally. And so what you call them, visual artists.
Okay.
Both, yes.
So they did. So what you're saying is they did their art for, of course, commercially, but then they had the art that they did
Yes.
for their own. All
Yes.
right.
And there was not really a conflict of integrity because they really did good art in the graphics.
So you were a big fan.
I grew up with that.
So there was a lot of things for you to go into art if you wanted to. Colors, crayons, brushes, chalks, and things like
According
that.
to my parents, because I don't remember, the workshop was in the same house. And I crawled in the, the atelier, the workshop. And they gave me a big, in those days, Japan was the leading inventor of what we then call soft felt or soft tip markers, but they didn't call it marker then. It looks like a big fountain pen. And honestly, the smell was good. It's only when you know nowadays what you smelled is not so healthy, but it's big enough, and so
All right.
I got paper and I could do what I wanted.
Just go wild with it.
Yes.
That's
But
wonderful.
see, the smell stays as a memory, not the details.
Interesting,
Yeah.
isn't that? It's just like when I used to do little models. The glue was not
Yep.
good for you, and you remember that smell. For those who, that was a big problem. So now, when you went to school, let's say to high school, were you headed towards art, or were you headed towards other forms of
Science.
What's that?
I
Science?
liked natural science,
Oh,
yes.
natural science.
And I liked mathematics and physics, biology, especially astronomy.
Yeah, astronomy. I love
I was
astronomy.
very bad in language besides Latin. Because Latin you don't have to speak and hearing. You can read it and translate. But
Right.
French was a catastrophe and English, oh my God. And I would never think that living in an
America.
English environment and being pretty fluent in English. I still have an accent and make mistakes, but I don't think anymore about it.
Right. Now you have a doctorate in
In
what?
history of art,
History of art.
University of Cologne.
Was that whole journey of education in history of art, did you enjoy that?
When I finally realized the whole thing was about learning, no matter what you learn,
Right.
it was fine.
Okay.
I mean, I like the arts, I like history, I like good arts, and in history of art you see and experience a lot of good art. But I wanted actually to study physics or biology. But my parents said, no, do something closer to art. But they wouldn't send me to academy. That was...
It's so funny because usually it's the other way around. Kids want to be actors and artists, and parents say, no. Want you to be
I had all that
computer
already.
guy.
And they didn't
yeah.
want to learn me to throw color against the wall and sitting in the corner and scream and call it happening. And they said, no, you learn something you can earn your money if art doesn't work out.
Okay.
And
Now you also studied in England for a while.
yes, I went to London, and as I said, English was bad. And here I am in England, and I get in a lecture hall. Oh my God, a whole lecture in English, and I slowly survived. And sounds a little bit strange, but my best advice to any foreigner going in an environment voluntarily, don't go and meet your countrymen. Because that is so nice and so easy, and you want only speak that. No, I really avoided anybody speaking German. It was tempting, but
Get away. I'm learning
no,
English.
it's not that
Okay,
bad.
no.
But what I mean is, it comes.
But the English speak with this funny accent. I don't know how you handle that. I don't know how you handle that. But now Now you, when you finish school, when you have your
I tell you what, you
education.
handle it with respect.
Yes, that's a good point. But now you come back, and so how did you get into the arts? I mean, did you go find a 9-to-5 job when you came out of school, teaching in a university or something, or?
No.
So
I
what
was
did you-
never employed. I was always self-employed.
Okay.
I mean, I was here and there, like when I was at Flackler, what they call it, adjunct professor.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good experience. But otherwise, no. I could actually and still do, and I'm very privileged that I can earn my money and living with art. And with the art, I can defend and have no integrity challenges.
Right. Well, your art is in so many places, in South Africa and in Scotland, and it's all over the world. When you look at your art, if I were to put everything you've painted in the last, say, 30 years, would there be a common denominator? Would there be something that keeps coming back?
Yes, but I'm thinking how to say it. It's not a secret, it's only how to say it.
Uh-huh.
I want to entice you as the observer that you like to look at it.
Okay.
And after a while, maybe you're curious and read the title or not. You want to know what you look at.
Okay.
And then starts the journey of the dialogue between the observer and whatever comes out of the painting. That I hope that is in nearly everything what I draw.
So you think there are sort of hidden messages in your painting when you look at them? If you look at them over again, you see something new, and you come back and you see something new?
Meanwhile, I know there's more hidden in it than I thought, but what I put in is put in with the intention to give the observers a chance to get it after a while. See, when you go in a museum or in a gallery, you have hundreds of visual, painting only in this, hundreds of visual impacts, and it's kind of competition. Look at me, look at me, look at me.
Right.
But a paint, and you're lucky if you spend 5 minutes in front of a painting. That's long for most people.
Yes.
But a painting is painted traditionally to live with you, and not having 30 competitors in the same room.
Right.
Maybe 5, but so. And when you live with a painting, you don't look at it every morning and you live at it's good, and then suddenly you stop and you get a thought and you wonder, hey, 3 years you hang there and I never thought about that, and that goes on and on. So it's in galleries and museum is exactly the opposite situation than what a painting is created for. How did we come with a message? So when I find symbolism, otherwise I write an essay, so I give you images which you as the observer understand and translate. I have to find sometimes things and invent them to give you the message. I mean, I'm not speaking German. Now, with you, you would understand it. Wouldn't. But if someone sits here and speaks the language you don't understand, it's not fair.
Right.
So why should I paint something you have no chance to understand?
That's
Example, I had one painting about modern inventions. It was a Trojan horse. So how do you give the message of, well, I tell you what I painted and then you understand. You know, a tumbler in a circus.
Yes.
So that little figure is balancing and losing the balance on this orange tubes, what is actually a medicine, a pill box.
Okay.
And he has 6 arms and is juggling the pills.
Uh-huh.
And he has a dunce hat on with a smiley face on, but his face is like that. So that is overprescription, overdoses, too many medications, all the side effect, and you will fall and crash. So that's in one image.
Okay.
And then I'm not quite sure if a German would understand this orange tube, but every American, I mean, it's orange like your tie, knows this is your standard medication pill box.
Okay. Now
That's an example.
right. And so if you had a chance to interview an artist, dead or alive, that you kind of found their work interesting, do you think you could come up with a name?
A handful, yes.
Yes, like?
George Latour, Giovanni Bellini, the other one, Caravaggio.
Caravaggio, but he
Yeah.
was a shaker. I mean, Caravaggio really pushed the envelope. I
He
love
was
his
good.
work.
Yeah.
It just brings you right in. Yes, he's very
He was very
insane.
honest.
Yes, and that got him in a lot of trouble all the time. He was kind of always, he was at the grace of the Pope and others to burn him or not. But going back to your art, is there a color that you tend to be attracted to more than others? Though you need all the colors to express, but is there a color that tends to, I see you all in green today, which is beautiful, but is there a color that tends to,
I love red.
red,
Crimson red.
crimson red, the
But
color
that
of
doesn't mean I
tango.
painted a lot, because you
Right.
have to be careful.
Right,
It's
right.
like a singer, you like a certain note, but if you have only that, then it gets stale. No, but crimson red is beautiful.
Crimson, well, yeah, I love tango, red is in that. There's a lot of things where, my mother too, she loves red. Yes, it's a very passionate, political, and many levels of a
No,
color.
red is older than politics.
Very well said, very well said. So when you look at the future, what do you see for your art?
More paintings?
More paintings. Did you ever have a phase? Some painters go through phases where they they stay within a certain topic for 10 years and then suddenly
No.
they start. Do you think you've always been eclectic in what you paint?
Yes, because I have pretty good records of my paintings. So when you go through, you can see, I can meanwhile 2 months having, normally I have 3 paintings parallel. So one is in the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end, because there's a drying period there. Yeah, otherwise you get stale. I can have very contrasting degrees of stylization, not different styles, but different stylization in topics parallel. And it's no conflict at all. No, I cannot say that. Maybe oneself cannot judge that. Maybe only detached, what we call eye of history, can finally figure it out and see certain things.
So do you see art as something spiritual?
Yes. But how to prove that, I don't know.
Well, someone once said to me, no, go ahead.
Through the work with Naum, I read suddenly books which I wouldn't read before, and there's one Indian neuroscientist, Ramachandran, and who writes about brain and neuron and all that, and for whatever reason, and he actually apologized even, that he suddenly was attracted to a certain period of Indian bronze figures, and he started actually out of a hobby to put his very educated brain now to this topic. And he comes up, and hopefully I quote that correctly, with an old Sanskrit term, rasa, very sharp, rasa. And that means the capacity of touching something inside the other person. Obviously you can do it as a speaker, as a writer, or as an artwork. And he said, when an artwork has rasa, then it has it. So we have to know someone, ask someone with better Sanskrit knowledge. I only try to quote that and re-narrate that. I think that was the best I ever heard to describe what art is. It touches something in you and makes you better. Not only feeling better, behaving better, looking better to future, looking to life better.
Wow. If we wanted to see more of your art, we go to a website? Is there a website?
Yes, it would be my not so easy spelling name,
Susanne Schuenke.
.com, or fine art, or whatever.
I thank you so much for coming
Thank
here.
you.
It's and congratulations again, your Roito Award. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll be back with our next guest from Gilt.
At St. Augustine Distillery, we're part of a new generation of American craft distillers. Family owned and operated, we are committed to making the best possible spirits using local agriculture. Our distillers make everything by hand, from mashing and blending to distilling and tasting each and every batch. We distill and bottle everything we sell, making sure that the spirits are just right before barreling and aging. Bottled by real people, we love showing our guests not only what we do, but why we do it. We're passionate about educating our guests to not only what goes into each bottle, but how to make the best possible cocktails. We love St. Augustine, and thanks to your purchases, we're able to give back to the community and help local organizations each and every day.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your support.
St. Augustine Distillery, handmade with pride in the nation's oldest city.
My background is French culinary, so we definitely have a European style to what we do. But I think also we're lucky with what we get around here as far as produce, so we're very spoiled with that kind of thing. Being able to get our vegetables delivered weekly, go out to the farm and pick up our cheese, things like that. So we're very influenced by our environment. Sourcing the way that we do seasonally is definitely something that keeps us creative. It keeps us doing something different every day. And especially now that we've started opening for dinner, it's really kind of going out there and meeting the guy at the dairy farm, meeting the guy that grows our cauliflower. Those are the kind of things that I think make it exceptional.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with the singer of the Gilt, Tyler Fieldhouse. And your band sounded like something I remember in East Village when I used to hang around late at night. And they'd be some basement bar, you know, and there'd be some band. There's so many, in the 80s, a lot of underground bands, a lot of new punk bands, et cetera, et cetera. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody who endured. Thank you so much.
So Tyler, where are you from originally?
I was born in Houston, but I moved to, I wasn't driving a car, I was 5. But my parents came here when I was 5, and I've been here since, so I'm relatively native.
Yeah, you've been here so long.
And I'm very old, so it's been a long time.
And you're very old, yes. And so, now, how did the name Gilt come up for this band?
So it's interesting you mentioned Flagler. I went to Flagler. I have a fine art degree. So Gilt is an art term. It's like flecks of gold paint. So like a gilded painting has like flecks of gilt
something
on it.
Clint would do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so it's like, I mean, obviously the wordplay of the emotion, but also it was just the idea that I liked of something that's like beautiful, but also like metal has this sort of cold abrasiveness to it, and that's what I like balancing in the band too.
And what could you tell us about the band members? Who are they?
Oh, they're nobody. I'm the important one. I've actually had 10 band members in the past 2 years the band has existed, but this is by far the best crop. We are an all-queer band. We focus on making sure that we have like female and male members. Also, a lot of our members are like non-binary. We try to be as inclusive as possible. It's, in my opinion, punk rock should be less of a musical genre and more of a sort of activist movement thing. So, and if we don't exemplify that by our existence from the get-go, we're not really doing it right.
Right.
So that's our main sort of focus.
Okay, and because of this, do you play in special places or you play everywhere?
I mean, we will play everywhere that doesn't have a reputation for having bad people. Like there's places in Jacksonville we won't go because there are actual Nazis there. So, you know, like we just kind of avoid that. But we've played people's basements, we've played big venues, we've played little bars, we've played furniture stores. You know, we'll do whatever.
You're here at the St. Augustine tonight.
Oh, gee, thank you.
And let me get back to you. So, how old were you when you started looking at music as a way to express yourself?
I mean, music's always been around me. My family has a history of musicians. My dad is a piano savant.
Oh, wow.
So I made sure that I learned everything that wasn't the piano because I don't like that competition. I learned guitar.
You
instead.
turned guitar, okay.
But you know, I was around it for a long time. I didn't really start writing it until I was 14, and then I didn't start entering the real world with other people until I was 24 because I have a lot of social hang-ups. So I've gotten better at socializing now. The band definitely helps.
Well, you know, being in a band is such a social manifesto.
Of course,
itself,
yeah, it's a full-time job.
And you're just putting out there, and you know, there's a reaction to the music, there's a reaction to the lyrics. You get the
hopefully.
Now there's Twitter and Instagram and all that, so you hear it directly from the people.
I mean, if I remember how to get onto Twitter, if there's we have a range of ages in the band, right? I'm 28, which is like, I was the last generation that didn't get a cell phone as a teenager. And so I'm fine not being on the internet, but we also have a member who's 17.
Right.
So they are
They
never
live
not
on
on their phone. Like there's always like one, I don't know, they like snake it around and but they run the social media, and I always say, hey, how are we doing on the internet?
And so when you were young, what were you listening to? When you were 12, 13?
So I can't say that. My dad was pushing hard rock, you know, like listen to Led Zeppelin, you know, like a normal dad thing to do.
Zeppelin,
yeah.
right.
My mom was also into that, but very 80s influence, like David Bowie, Prince, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But was also kind of receptive to what was happening in the 90s, like grunge music was big, like Nirvana was big.
Yes,
New
Pearl
metal was a
Jam.
thing. I don't know if you ever liked Limp Bizkit, but that's a
Yes.
band from Jacksonville. Yeah, that was happening when I was a kid, and so I have just these horrible influences. But I eventually matured into my own individual and listened to what was called emo when I was a teenager.
Define emo.
Okay. Y'all ready for a history lesson? My mom told me before I came on here, emo's not a genre. And I said, all right, let's send you some YouTube links. So emo comes from the term emotional hardcore, which was hardcore music deriving from punk. So like punk starting in the 70s, moving into the 80s, it gets harder and harder and harder.
Yes.
It's hardcore music now. But all of a sudden, they don't just want to talk about politics, they want to talk about their feelings.
Right.
So some journalist calls it emotional hardcore. And all of a sudden in the 90s it gets kind of goes away for a bit, but it comes back in the 2000s as these kids, and they all have hair like this, and it's just like down here, and they're just like, I hate my parents, you know, and they all wear eyeliner and they wear tight black pants, and that's what I grew up on. And to me, that was speaking to feelings that I had when I was a teenager that regular aggressive music or new metal didn't have, because it's, I don't know, I feel like rock and roll has a very macho energy, and I'm clearly not super macho as a person, so the whiny little kids with the straightened hair and the makeup, that really spoke to me, and I was like, oh, I'm a artsy weirdo too. So that's what I'm doing now, is just perpetuating this cycle.
All right, and so have you toured outside of...
We never stopped touring.
Oh, wow.
I'm really glad we got to be here, because we were supposed to be on tour for 4 months this year, but our new member being 17, their parents said, you can't take our daughter for 4 months to Mexico and Canada. And I said, what about 1 month we come home, 1 month we come home, and we just keep doing this? And they said, that's fine. So this is the month that we're home.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you've been played in Canada, the West Coast?
We're doing Canada next month. We went to the West Coast last year. We spent, I don't know if you're familiar with 924 Gilman.
No, I'm not.
Do you know the band Green Day?
Yes.
Like the most like iconic punk band. So that was their home venue. This was the biggest deal.
They did a musical on Broadway.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's the part where all the punk kids said they sold out, and they, you know, as is the dichotomy of music. If you get popular, you're a sellout. If you're poor, you have good ethics, right? But Gilman is this venue that still exists. We spent some time there, and it's run by punks, and these are essentially street kids who are running a music venue, supporting art, and putting together showcases where, and really being brave. There was a band that played a couple days after us, and one of the members said something very racist, and these kids just came up and decked them, and that's very punk. That's it's
punks are do not
real-time activism.
Yes, do not hold back their physical disapproval.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Which, as long as they're morally upstanding people, then I can get behind that.
So now, what do you see? Okay, so now you're touring. Are you recording anything that people can buy?
We're very bad at recording because we don't have a lot of money, as is the traditional punk thing. We spend a lot of our money doing activism stuff. We run a festival that gives the money to people's transitional surgery costs. So we don't have a good habit of keeping the money for ourselves, but we're working on that, and we're trying to make a record this year.
Because you create a following, and people would like to own the music.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing too, is that ownership of music has always felt odd to me. Like you were describing, the purpose of art to be lived with and not sort of in this horrible gallery setting. And now music lives on the internet for free.
Yes.
And in the 90s when that started happening, big bands, Metallica, sued people for over this.
That.
And now, how can you be upset about wanting to share your art? And how could you be upset about somebody not getting fleeced by record companies, jacking the price up, to $14 and only making it to where you can get it at Best Buy?
Right. And having artists to sacrifice what they'd really like to play, but the company tells them that's not going to sell, so I want you to. Yes.
Exactly, and there's a lot of different avenues now for musicians specifically. A lot of them have Patreons, like regular artists, where if you're a fan, every month you just give them $5 and you can have access to everything, and they get to keep living. And that's, we're really interested in alternative sources of income that aren't just, please pay too much money to come see my crappy band.
Okay. Well, and so people ask you what you're wearing?
Oh, I'm wearing my work outfit because I just came from my food service job, which is the most stereotypical for somebody who's 28 and is in a band and lives with their mother. Like a normal artist.
That's funny. So let me ask you the last question. So are you looking, you got the U.S., Canada, do you think you'll go across the great ocean to England or
last
Scotland?
year we took a couple of bands from the U.K. around Florida before our big festival, which is called Fest, and they said, you guys have no idea. It's horrible coming over here. The economics of touring into the United States, horrible deal. But they said, you guys can make your money back immediately. You come to England, we'll get you drivers, we'll get you gear, and it's just easy. And I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed about operating in punk rock versus, let's say, the gallery system as a fine artist is that people just offered that to me. I didn't have to prove myself to anybody. I didn't have to get onto any top 10 list of anything. I was a good person, and I supported the community of artists, and in turn, the community supports me back.
Right. Because you did also regular art. You were an artist.
Yeah, and I absolutely hated it.
Interesting. So music was the art form that you heard your calling.
Well, I love doing art, for the record. I self-published a couple books, and before I was a performing musician, I did the thing you do, which is you sit at a table and people walk over and they look at your book and they flip through it. And it's like they're looking into your soul, and they look up at you again and they're judging you, and they've decided if you're worth money or not. And I absolutely hate that. I'd rather perform something, and if somebody doesn't like my performance, that's fine. But at least I can do something in the moment.
Right.
And I still get to do fine art. I get to do record covers, and I get to do posters and stuff. So, and I still get to write because I'm writing songs. But I didn't like the institution of being a fine artist or a writer.
Interesting. Me hanging in East London when punk was big, having a similar conversation with young people about the commercialism of music and having the right also to write any kind of song they wanted. It was. Yeah, it was very, very interesting because it was points I'd never heard.
Well, I want to hear, because I remember in our lifelong friendship that we've had, we've talked about this many times, and punk in the 80s, especially in the UK, they were social activists, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
but they also had the mohawks and the jackets and the
Yeah.
spikes. And it's like now, if you see a punk like that, there's a good chance that they're really in it for fashion.
Yeah.
And I think that must have been such a time where the fashion and the activism and the art was all coinciding in a really authentic way for the first time.
The Sex Pistols, the Clash, etc., etc. I thank you so much for coming on the show. Would you play something for us?
Oh, in fact, we have to.
Okay, all right. When we come back, the Gilt will play one more time for us. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. We thank the Gilt. We thank our guest, Susanne Schuenke. We thank Carol Lopez-Bradshaw. It was a wonderful show. Next week, we have a wonderful, wonderful show. Don't miss it. Have some incredible guests. I'll keep it a secret. But without you, this would not be possible. So I thank you again. I thank the Gilt. I thank Tyler and everybody in this band. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Schönes Mädchen, komm doch noch rüber. Schönes Mädchen, lass mich nie wieder. Komm schon, schönes Mädchen.